So here we go. I'm so happy to have Victoria Garrick Browne here because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. Who says the mentor can't be half your age? I was on Victoria's Real Pod, which is one of the amazing things she does. Division I, semi-pro volleyball, USC, right? That's where it all began. And then she had this sincere passion, which I'll let her talk about, for really, truly making women feel good and have their best life, in my opinion. Your TEDx or your TED Talk.
TEDx, yes.
TEDx, like over 500,000 views at this point, or 600,000. How many?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It just somewhere there.
Blew up. And also your foundation, right? The Hidden Opponent. So I'm going to let you fill in the gaps and bring us up to speed on what you've been up to. And I'm so glad to have her here because in addition to being wildly successful and truly the real deal, amazing human, she happens to be the daughter of my 40-year friend, Lainey, and her husband, George, who I adore. So I've had the pleasure of knowing her like since birth. And talk about you never know where your life's going to go, where somebody you met as a baby and you're like, whatever, that's somebody's baby, ends up potentially changing your life. So give us, fill in the gaps, what I missed and what I said wrong, and bring us up to speed on what you've been up to.
First of all, I'm so honored to be here. Anytime I get to talk to you, I truly just feel lucky. Like whether you even say something inspirational, which happens even when you're not trying, but your energy is just so infectious. So I was so excited to come here and I'm honored to be on the show. And I'm so happy you're doing it because the world needs the Jeffrey Saad wisdom. As far as everything you said, I mean, yes, it's always funny, like when you hear someone like list your accomplishments because you get like imposter syndrome,
Imposter syndrome.
That's me, like, and then I'm sure you can appreciate like philosophical where I'm like, well, that's just the story about my life, but it's not me and my core, I always get existential with it. But yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a founder, also a podcaster. And I just feel really grateful that I didn't plan on doing this with my life. I majored in journalism. I thought I'd be a sports reporter. It was really my own life experiences of struggling with my mental health, struggling with body image, that I got to a place of feeling like nothing felt more important than just like telling my story and being authentic about how I felt in my life. And then it was stepping into that, which is like really just owning who I was at the time, that opened all of these doors for me to be here. So I feel like fiercely passionate about encouraging other people to be themselves because there's so much beauty that comes from that.
Say that again. Like truly to be themselves, because you are like the Jacques Cousteau of truth to me. Like diving deep, like how wrong am I? You can't stop unless you find the truth. Like what's real.
Yeah. I just feel like once you live authentically, you don't ever see like, why would you want to go back? Like, and sometimes I do ask myself, I've gotten to this place where everything I do obviously has a lens of vulnerability. So then I start to question, like, is it even vulnerability anymore? If I remember when I first started talking about, for example, my binge eating disorder, I was really hesitant about some of those details. It felt too vulnerable. It didn't feel too vulnerable to talk about like suicidal ideation in my TEDx talk,
Jeez.
But it did to talk about how much food I was eating in the darkness and the secrecy of my room. That felt like too far. But then that story, long story short, I was talking to a publication and they included that in a piece and it was like out there. And I remember thinking, I'm not even going to repost this. I'm not going to reshare it because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is out to the world.
Cringing myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like, I'm embarrassed. And I feel shame. And that's why we don't want to be vulnerable, right? We feel exposed. And I just got so many messages of random people. I saw this, I followed this magazine or I saw the video and oh my God, this is me and this helped me. And so then it was almost like I got shoved into it and I saw the warmth and the love and the feeling seen, that then I felt more comfortable going further into it. But now it's like, you get desensitized. I'm like, I meet someone on the street and they have heard me cry on my podcast multiple times. Right. So, other than things that are like off limits, like, I don't know, just things in your life that aren't really about you. So it's like, my thing is me. I will share myself, but I can't share everyone. So then I think there are moments of, okay, like I do have some mystery to my life, but not really.
Yeah. But you know what? The beauty is, you're 20 years ahead of me because I was 40 years old when I was on the next Food Network star. One of the things, it was the biggest epiphany. One of the things they said to me is stop being like trying to be perfect. Share yourself.
Yeah.
And I grew up with this whole like, work and personal separate. like keep it separate. And it was such a relief to finally go, no, it's actually better. And as you know better than anybody, people just like you better because then you're real and then they feel real and they don't feel bad that they're in their rooms binge eating or that, they don't look like they initially wanted to look in their suit. I mean, those are still my favorite posts that you do. It's like, look at this. And there's like, the skirt's bunched over and then you go like this and you look like as hot as anybody online.
To show that like anyone can take a good picture and make it seem like they have no imperfections when then someone else is in their home like, oh my God, but 90% of the time I feel like I'm imperfect. And it's like, so is everyone else. But also to what you said about like being yourself on the next Food Network star, I just think anything we do in life, even if you work a corporate job, and even when you think about real estate, like when you bring what makes you special to what you do, that always enhances it. And I think we are in a place in life where we're seeing everyone across the board, like it's powerful to have a brand or just personality or something that's like signature to you.
Perfectly said. One of my favorite things, and I'm sure like I have nothing original. I'm sure I read it somewhere, but I think I can't remember where. I think I just said it, but who would you be if you weren't who you thought you were? I think everybody has this idea of this is who I am, but who would you really be if you didn't think that's who you were, that you're trying to portray? When I first got back into real estate from cooking, Nadia was like my amazing, beautiful wife, was like, don't talk about food. Like they're going to think you're not a good realtor if you're a chef. And I couldn't help it. I'd be out showing a house. I'd be like, wait, you're making ossobuco tonight? Oh no, you want to sear that. Dust it with flour, get it gold. But then it was like, I got an even better reaction because I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was just, talking about what I love. So when you started that though, because you've saved lives. I have no doubt you have literally saved lives. You've definitely allowed a million people, not just women, I'm sure people like me, to be better for themselves. But was that your initial goal? Was it like, I just need to talk about this, I'm going to talk about it? Or was it like, I want to help people and I think this is how I can do it? Like, how did that evolve?
I feel like the very first time I spoke out, and it's funny because usually when people are talking about like the first time they made a change in their life, it's like, I sent this email or it's like a small build over time. But for me, it was literally like, I stood on a stage to 100 people and spoke. Like the first time I spoke out, I literally spoke out the way, the most that you can.
100 people, by the way, is recorded in millions.
But, and I remember too, like my mom, who you mentioned at the time, even saying like, are you sure you want to save all of this?
That's so weird. Yeah, no.
See,
ladies from my era, it's like, let's keep it like this.
Yeah. And then
not like this.
And then she dropped the future employers will see this. And I wasn't even like,
that's so weird.
I know. I wasn't even upset because she has my best interest in heart. Yeah. She really does. She could be like a Kris Jenner if she wanted to. Like she's smart with like, even my speaking, she'll be like, no, you have to say it this way and blah, blah. She gets it.
She has way high emotional intelligence.
Oh, her emotional intelligence is
charts.
Insane. But I remember thinking, no, but this is my story. Like, I'm not just going to tell. If I'm going to say something, I'm not going to say half of it or 80%. I'm going to say 100. So, that was and I give the story of my mom because that was a big moment for me. I remember thinking, oh my God, people from my hometown in high school are going to be like, wait, Victoria Garrick is depressed? Like, no, like that's not the girl we know. Yeah. So I remember thinking, yeah, this is really, I'm really putting myself out there. But to your question, the reason was because I felt so blindsided by what I experienced. Like, oh my gosh, if you make it on a top team and you are winning every game and you're playing with National Player of the Year and you guys are number one in the country, like, and you're like, this is your dream and you'll never be sad. And like, here I was actually in the most miserable place I'd ever been because the stakes were so high and I felt so much pressure. And a lot of it, especially looking back now, I wasn't able to handle it. I did not have the tools. I didn't have the preparation. I wish I could pause my current life, do 4 more years of D1, knowing what I know now, and see if I could handle it better and I could control my inner dialogue and not have as much performance anxiety. And I didn't have the tools. And so it's not like this person hurt me and these people were toxic. Of course, there's that in every situation of life.
Sure.
But I was a high functioning perfectionist, like anxiety waiting to just seep out my entire life. And this was the perfect storm. And so when that happened to me, who I thought, oh, this would never be me. I would never be depressed. I turned my ears off when they talked about mental health in high school, just thinking it won't be me.
Right, it's not me.
I work too hard. I have friends. Like I had the stigma, which the stigma can be so real that it also keeps people from even seeking help. Fortunately, once I started going to therapy and talking about how, oh my gosh, yeah, like this is really hard. And I need tools to work on how to, make it through and survive in this environment. And I remember one of my therapy sessions in the very beginning, the therapist saying, one of my first sessions ever, like, and why do you have to be the best at everything? And me being like, well, what do you mean? Yeah. what would I need? What would I mean? That wasn't best. And she's like, let's go back. And it was the first time I went, I was like, yeah, wait, why do I always feel like I have to absolutely nail it or something terrible is going to happen? Like, so I think once I felt empowered of like, I'm no longer blaming myself. Like I couldn't handle the stakes. Something's wrong with me. And I was looking at it like, if it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. And speaking out about it, I had no foresight. I'm going to be a public speaker.
Right.
I'm going to start a podcast. I am a strategic person. Like my brand I've built, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, that just all happened overnight. No, I strategically, built my brand.
But the foundation is so organic.
Yes.
You just started speaking at colleges like while you were still living in going to school. Like it's so cool.
It really started with just, I simply have to give this TEDx talk. Like, because I want another athlete who's crying in bed at night feeling this way to see it and then feel less alone, because there were not many videos I could find in 2016.
Well, and that's the irony. What you said earlier is one of my passions. You said, I wish I could go back. I'm so glad you couldn't go back, because like a chef, you can't take out one ingredient and have the same dish.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't gone through exactly that, you wouldn't be who you are today. You would not have evolved into who you are today. You would not have saved so many people. You would not inspire so many people. You would not have made the massive changes that you're going to make for the future. I mean, that's what's so sorry it had to be for your suffering.
No,
but it's our benefit that you suffered.
Yeah. And I don't have regrets. Like I wouldn't go back and change it. Like I wish I could, like I said, like pause life, just do it to see if I could, but it's just like, it doesn't really count for anything.
Right.
But to your point, I was thinking about that today. Something's going on right now in my life that's like a difficult situation, but because of an even worse situation a few years ago, like I feel like I'm prepared for this one.
Right.
And
which is amazing.
But it just makes you think like some of the toughest things that happen to you in life make you who you are in this moment. And it is wild to think like, would I take that, make it different in the past, but then I don't know who I'd be right now.
What? We are all who we are. The things I adore about my wife, when she says, oh, I wish that was different in my childhood or that was different. I say, I don't, because I love every bit of you for exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And we don't know that if that thing got pulled out, if you'd still be you.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool. So to me, it's never about like, and I'm not saying you're saying that, but it's never about like, oh, I need to go back and fix. It's about how am I evolving? That whole art of Kaizen, just 1% better every day. I keep learning and evolving, right? It's not what went wrong or what didn't happen, but it's how am I evolving now that I've learned more and know better.
Yes. One of my favorite Eckhart Tolle quotes that I always think about with this is something like, how do you know this is the experience you're supposed to be having? Because it's the one you are in this moment.
That's it.
And I think about that all the time. Like, even when things are tough, I'm like, this is an opportunity to hold two truths at once. This is an opportunity to handle the situation differently than I would in the past. This is an opportunity to become stronger in this. Like, and of course, I'm not a toxic positivity person, like cry, like I cried yesterday, like, but it is pushing.
That's its own superpower, by the way. Just be like, I'm good. I can cry. And like, it's a tool, right? Like, if you don't use those tools, you suffer.
You have to let it out. They say body keeps the score. Like if you don't, and even I was in the car with my husband, Max, and I'd start crying about something else. And then I just, when I'm sure when the wife starts crying about something specific and then goes, and I just do everything for everyone. You're like, oh, fuck. Like, this is really taking a turn. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm always thinking about
Max is the martial artist master of just like,
I know.
I'm going to let this go in and I'm going to process. I'm not going to react.
And I was thinking, like, I haven't had a really good cry. Like, when you are married, you're with your partner all the time. Like, it's not like you live alone and you have those nights where you just sob and you just get to get it out. And so we're in the car and I can tell he's like trying to think about like, what is he saying? I go, literally, you don't have to say anything. I was like, I could be alone right now. I just need to like let all this out and let my ego take over and vent.
And just like, okay, it's just kidding. I'm going to turn.
I know. So Yeah. How did we get there?
I love that. I don't know, but I like getting there.
I like it.
But my goal with this podcast is I am so passionate about, I just love people. Like, speaking of crying, yesterday we were walking on the beach, Isabella and I, my daughter's in town. You just saw Bella. And it was like 7 a.m. She's like, Dad, let's go to a beach walk and dive in the ocean. I'm like, hell yeah. So we go watch sunrise, drive in the ocean. As we're walking back, I see this guy, he had to be 65, probably bawling on the beach with his hands in his face. And I went up to him and I started crying. And I just said, it's all going to be okay. This is just a moment in time. It's going to get better. And he looked at me with this big smile, like, how do you know? But I'll take it,
Oh.
But I literally, and Isabel was like, I can't believe you started crying. I'm like, but I had such deep empathy for him. I see this guy on the beach and he just lost somebody or something or whatever it was. Or maybe he's just never got to learn what you've taught us all. And he doesn't know how to deal with what he's dealing with, but it was like, I instantly connected in the empathy of a stranger, but then I wanted to help him. But, so my passion with this podcast, the circle of control, as you know, Stoic philosophy, right? Here's the circle. It's my tattoo. Whatever is outside your circle that you can't affect, I feel like everybody suffers the weight of that stuff. And the irony is your circle will expand if you can focus more on what's inside.
Yeah.
You can make a difference and your circle will grow if you let go of what you can't fix. So I suffer with people when I see them so focused on all these things that they can't change or that they're not willing to change, I should say. And you even asked me on your podcast, which I love, because it was a really important clarifying point. Like, this doesn't mean go, oh, war, not my backyard. Who cares? I'm good. I got steak tonight. No, it's not ignore things that don't affect you personally, but it's like, if I'm not going to go raise money for Ukraine, if I'm not going to, go to the Middle East and try and make people, like, you have to decide where you're going to put your attention, because you'll be really good at that then.
Yeah.
What you've done, where you've put your attention, your circle just keeps growing because you're in it. But because you're who you are, I'm really excited for people to hear about your take on the circle and how you deal with it. Because I feel like your circle is like a heartbeat as it expands and contracts as you keep spiraling upward in your success. So what is your take on that? What's maybe a recent example of something that's bouncing in and out of your circle that you want to deal with?
Yeah. I love everything you just said. And it's so important. And I think a guiding phrase that's been helping me with what's my circle of control and what's not is like, I have 3 options in every situation in life. And it's that I don't like. Okay?
Put your pen out. This is going to be good.
Because we're only talking about the things we don't like, right? If it's a good thing, no one cares where it's it's fine. Who cares?
Great.
These are the things that we don't go our way. You can change it, you can leave it, or you can accept it.
Love it.
You can't do anything else. So if I
say it again,
change it, leave it, or accept it.
Beautiful.
And if I can't change the moment, then I can leave it or I can accept the moment, right? And so I feel like an acceptance, that's the hard one, because it's easy to run your mouth and say this, whatever. And then it's also leaving, but also accepting is so hard. And I feel like that is a lesson in the past.
Most people leave because they can't handle acceptance, so they'd rather bail.
Right. And accepting something that is not how you'd hoped or what you'd wanted is really difficult. I had to learn that throughout the past few years, just with relationships and getting older and seeing that people have just different values. They view it a different way. Actually, I'll give you a small example, but it's right on the nose.
Perfect.
My husband, Max, just switched
awesome
careers.
Human, by the way.
Awesome
I love.
Human. He switched from real estate to broadcasting. So he's a broadcaster. Catch him with CW. And
yes.
I texted my mom, Lainey, or my mom. We're just kind of
Lainey's side. We don't love you. You know that.
You gotta have her on to defend herself.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So I said, I want to have like a party for Max, like a dinner with the family, just as like a send off. And she was like, oh my God, that sounds so great. Should we invite his friend? Should we make it a surprise? Should we do it then? And I'm just thinking, whoa, like I just alerted you, like I, his wife, will arrange a small casual get together. And it was this interaction where I was like, okay, like, and for my mom, what she views as special and good enough in this celebratory situation is wildly different than how Max and I view what needs to happen for this dinner. And that will maybe forever be different. Maybe she will forever think it wasn't as big of a party as it
It's not
really
grand,
should have
it's
been.
crap.
Yeah, or it wasn't enough. And I will think, oh, but it was because it's about XYZ. So there are just situations in life where it nets out differently for people. And I'm more right than she is right or wrong. Like, I'm not like, she needs to believe what I believe. Like, that's been a big unlock for me in my life. It's just, I need to accept the differences that people have with everything and relationships and how you show up for people and what's important and what needs to be talked about and what can be swept into the rug. Like, it's just going to be different. So it's what you can tolerate, but also like needing to accept, because then you can.
This sounds like an example of a little bit of change and accept. Because you were telling your mom, well, actually, this is the way I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to change it. But you also accepted, like you said, that
she might show up and think it's not good enough.
Right.
And I have to accept that. Like, so everything, of course, went totally fine. But
Yeah.
and we had a great dinner. And like, yeah, but
you know why? It's because that you approach it that way. Like, really, like this is at the core of what I want to help people with.
Yeah.
Because it could have turned into a bitter relationship between you and your mom, which you hear those stories all the time,
Right.
all over a silly dinner.
Right.
Right? Because people don't address it, and instead they choose to fight it or judge.
Yes.
Or I can't believe you would treat it this way. Who do you think you are?
Right.
We're not even having you at the dinner. And it's like, really?
Right. They take it so personally. And that's something else too I've been trying to really like think about a lot, is not taking it personally. One of the 4 agreements, right?
Right. I love it.
It's not personal. Actually, one of your quotes I love so much that you've shared with me, and all your inspirational notes you keep, is about the things you need to do before reacting. And one of them is put yourself in the other person's shoes. And just putting yourself in someone else's shoes, really, not just like, well, I can see, and you're waiting to say, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
No, like really close your eyes and think, if I was this person, like, that's why. I had a situation recently where I felt like I was let down by a friend. And of course I was like upset, and I still have a little bit of my ego that wants to be like, I can't believe that happened. But I'm
I love that you're honest about that too, because it does keep bubbling.
It does.
Right? It's not like, hey, do these 3 steps, you're done. No, it's going to be an endless journey of bubbling.
Yes.
Purging.
Until you fully dilute and out the colored water, right? And so I have really been like, okay, this person, like, this is her upbringing. This is her family. These are her friends. This has nothing to do. It affects me because it hurt my feelings that I was like, I didn't get what I wanted in the situation.
Right.
But that's not because she said, I want to spite Vic. Not at all. Like, literally not at all. Like, it's so, and if I know that, I'm just giving myself, my ego, time to cool off, because I know my higher self doesn't want to make ego reality.
Right. I mean, it's that in those notes, it's like what I read one time, which I love, the Wright brothers, that was their policy. Whenever they disagreed, they had to swap sides.
Yeah.
And with politics, especially, and everything, more than ever, like I was as bad as disowning half my family over politics years ago. Now I've gotten to the place where when the other side has an announcement that's good for them, I purposely call and just say, hey, I want to say I love you and check in. Like, I'm going deep into it, because it's not just accepting. We have to, like, literally, like, as you said, like, try and understand it. Doesn't mean you're agreeing with it, but like, you're an idiot because you think differently than me is definitely not a good solution.
Yeah.
And if we can go past just, all right, I'm going to leave you alone, fine. But if we could even take another step and say, why do you think what you think? Because there's truth in everything. There's got to be some nugget in there that, why do you think what you think? And I really think it's because people don't feel heard, or they're hurt, or it's never about what you think it's about. It's something underneath.
Totally. And I think that you can have a really cathartic conversations with people in your life. I can think when you go to someone and say, hey, I'm actually really hurt because I feel like this. And they're like, I'm so glad you said something because it rubbed me the wrong way when you did this a month prior. And I'm like, whoa. And then it's like, you're seeing a different side to the situation. And also, I think though, people can get very defensive and have ego. And it's like, it's just changes your life when you can look at it differently and accept that, like, maybe you have done something wrong or you need to take accountability. And my husband takes accountability for things he should not be accountable for.
It's raining. It's my fault. Yeah. I am so sorry.
Literally, like, and when we first started dating, I was like, wait, this isn't fun. I wanted to fight. When you just say, I'm sorry and apologize, what are we doing? It's over.
Yeah, but good for him,
Yeah. but that's the feeding the ego, like the toxic desire to like have a fight and like, but really like, we had a situation where we were at an event and he was talking to a girl, totally normal. Like there's talking to the other gender. And I usually do not care. For some reason, whether it was the cocktail.
She was on his lap.
No. They were just talking in the kitchen.
Okay.
But I don't know why I was just getting really jealous. Like I just started to, in my mind, just get jealous. Like, did they hook up in college and I don't know about it? And like my mind starts to spiral.
Storytelling.
Literally. And it was so silly. So a past version of me or someone who hasn't done the work might start giving eyes and being rude at the party and be like, no, I'm fine. And he'll be like, what's wrong? And I'll be like, nothing. And start a fight, cause a scene. Now the whole evening is being ruined for both of us. And people are going to be watching us fight. I may be taking away from whatever the party was about. Maybe we're leaving early to go home. We have a screaming match. You were terrible. Instead, I was like, this is a me issue. My husband is chatting to a human. That's facts.
You're amazing.
Like,
here's to that. Like, really, that's what we all need to be doing.
Literally, I'm like, this is a me issue. Bringing it up while we're drinking and it's nighttime is not the time. No one's dying. Keep it to yourself and you can bring it up tomorrow or the next day. So we have a great night. And then the next day or 3, I go to him and I go, I just want to tell you about something. You did nothing wrong. I want to just be close with you and make sure we share our emotions and feelings at all times.
Awesome.
And I was feeling jealous when I saw you talk to
him. He was like, awesome. Yeah.
I know. He's like,
he's like, he was
yeah.
going to say, he's like, this is great.
I know, right? He's like flattered. And I said, and I go, and I didn't say you were making me feel jealous. You can't talk to girls because it triggers me. I said, I was triggered and it was really odd. And like, you were my best fucking friend. So of course I'm just going to like talk about this with you, both looking at it from like a bird's eye view. And like, and that's that.
Good job. And he's like, that's good because we're doing lunch tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Because I had more to tell you. No. You read that right. No.
But that's huge of you. I mean, you are so like advanced. Like I'm just figuring this stuff out now.
Jeff, I done so much therapy. I was not born this way. I have cried many tears. I'm still having time.
But you know what I love about you? And the list is very long, but you actually take it, learn, own it. Really, and I don't mean this to diss anybody that's in therapy because it's not my place and everyone's have their own journey. But like, we have friends in particular, like, right, that they do that, but then it's just rinse and repeat. I mean, nothing changes. Right. You evolve and change, which is so brilliant. I love the way you said that too, because I talk about, my relationship with Nadia. We've been married 28 years. It took 20 years for me to figure out that she needs her alone time. And exactly what you said. And now instead of me going like, why is she ignoring me? This is not fair. I was sitting here and she's off doing her, Candy Crush. Now, like you said, I go, why am I being a whiny bitch?
How can I
go read a book?
Yeah.
Go find something to do. Why do you need to be pampered? Why do you need attention? Like totally. Like you said, that's a me problem.
You know what's so funny is in every relationship, I'm that in mine. Yeah. My best friends, Aubrey and Wood is that in Aubrey. Like all of us, like wanting to be anxious attached, find the like, what's it called? Securely attached people who like don't like. It's always funny. You never get like two together, but maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe that's toxic.
They blow up.
Right.
Yeah, that's the beauty of like we balance each other.
But to your point, like it is hard. And I do think, and I've seen this in my own life, people have to be ready to hear something. I have had times where I have heard something 5 times over, but it's not until a certain person on a certain day where the stars have aligned and I am ready to receive.
Yeah.
And that goes back to our whole thing about acceptance. It's like, it might make perfect sense to you. You might think you could see the future and say, this is how it should work. I once had a therapist say to me, how do you know what's best for everyone? And I was like, hey, you're right.
By the way, we'll hand out this therapist number because it sounds like pretty awesome.
I've had many. They're all great, but yeah. And that's hard, but that's where you get to the acceptance thing. Like, can I accept this? Even with this like situation with a friend, like I had to ask myself, like, what's my goal of having a conversation about this? Like nothing. Like I know when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And it might not be that they're a terrible person that you should be friends with. It just might mean this is always going to be the little thing that happens in these instances. And that's okay. And that's why this is this type of friend. And these are my friends I know that wouldn't ever do that to me. And I can accept that. And that used to be really hard for me. I want everyone to be perfect. I want everyone to be the same. I want everyone to meet the standard.
Right.
So for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to fully accept that, like, this will always maybe miss the mark a little bit. Like, that's hard for me. But now I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm glad I can do that because I'm not just like cutting people out of my life. I never did that, but I didn't let a lot of people in.
And you're cutting out without knowing it.
Yeah.
But that's a great statement. I learned that as, running restaurants and having hundreds of employees. Like, I love that idea. Don't hold other people accountable to your standards.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, in a business, you have to have agreed upon standards, fine. But like, it's very dangerous. And also, in addition to what you said, like, let them be who they are, listen when they tell you who they are. But I've also tried to get to a place where I'm like, I'm going to give them another chance to tell me who they are. Because maybe they're having a really bad day.
Yeah.
Maybe their wife was playing Candy Crush last night and they feel, ignored. But if somebody keeps telling you over and over, then like you said, that's who they are,
The thing about chances, so I do love the quote when people show you who they are, believe that.
Yes.
But I am always a second chance, never a third. That's where I maybe haven't grown with the third. But
but that's good standards.
I think everyone deserves
standards.
a second chance. A third, like fool me once, shame on you. Right. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
So like, and I do believe that. And that's not to say, and here's where like you can kick in the enlightenment side of it. Like, let's say it's that second time. It doesn't mean I have to say, fuck that person who talk shit through the whole town and I'm going to block them. It just means
you're in the outside circle.
You just casually like, that really disappointed me. Like, but I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to like, and now it just is what it is. Yeah. Like, and that also is like how you protect your boundaries. You don't let people walk all over you and like disrespect you, but you do it in that next level way. Once again, Eckhart Tolle, who I just am obsessed with, but
the best.
And one of the examples in his book is like an example of someone coming to you for money. Oh, can I have like $1,000 and I promise I'll pay you back? And like, oh, can I have $2,000 and I promise I'll pay you back? Like, he has this thing called a high quality no. You could say no.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you not enlightened and like accepting of people. Nice. It just means you can give a high quality no that doesn't have negativity.
I actually haven't heard that before. And I love that. I love that card. I'm a huge fan of high quality no. That is epic.
Which is a no that doesn't have any spice of resentment or anger, or it's just like,
loving
I'm not able to give you any more money.
Yeah.
Like, it's a high quality no. Like, and we're allowed to do that.
Yeah. That's beautiful. High quality no. That's really well said. So I have a question for you. So passionate about relationships, right? Like, I always joke that the most important person and thing in our life is our partner. And yet, just like having babies, nobody tells you how to do it. You just wing it. I joke that like, I wish that when I went to get my marriage license, they would say, all right, sit down. There's an hour. We're going to do this booklet together. And here's your package to take home. You're going to do a quarterly review with each other, talk about like what's important, what matters, right? Because I think some of these things slowly simmer. It's like the person you love the most in the world, that you live with, that you share your life with. There's all this unspoken, not your house, but there's all this unspoken simmering, So I think, and again, it's from the outside. I think you and Max are like the quintessential relationship. I feel like you've become one, yet you're still very independent and have your own lives. So tell everybody more about all this stuff you've been talking about. How has it applied to your relationship, and what is your nuggets of like, okay, you're getting married soon. Here's what you want to, this has worked and this hasn't.
Thank you so much. It's such a high compliment. And I always want to be cognizant that like, I guess a part of me will be like, oh, I don't ever want to be like, we have a perfect relationship. Like we really do. Like, of course we have disagreements and whatever, but I think Max did a really good job from the get-go of like, we're not going to have this bullshit. We're not going to have like, passive aggressive comments and like the toxic stuff that maybe I was used to with like an ex-boyfriend and saw in the movies. And I was never like too crazy, but like, I would be, an example is like, if he was hanging out with a bunch of people, I'd be like, well, who's there? Why don't you know like what girls are there? Because maybe I don't trust him, whatever. We're just not going to do that. Like if I say I'm going out with my friends, like have a great night, like you can just trust me. Like, so
awesome.
So he was good at that. And another thing he was huge on is there will be no happy wife, happy life. Like there will not be.
You said like 1,000 guys tuned in to go, wait, what was that?
Yeah.
This is for me, this podcast.
Yeah. There will not be a world, and we see this everywhere. There will not be I just bite my tongue to appease my wife.
I also think it's a little bit condescending in a weird way, either direction.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, come on, like honor what both people want. I think the irony is a lot of people that say that maybe don't even really hate it.
And like,
it's more like a passive thing.
Right. And I think then like there can be resentment that builds from the husband. This is really just gender stereotyping. So I'm gonna acknowledge that. But from what I've seen in this type of relationship,
No, I agree with you.
like I think also the woman doesn't have to learn how to manage her emotions because she has a partner that just avoids the conflict. So lets the spiral just grow throughout their life. Like this is the dynamic and the imbalance. I mean, and we see it like, I just see it a lot. And so like, for example, like there'll be times where Max will say, I think you're in the wrong. I think it would be inappropriate for you to do that. And I think maybe someone would say, I can't believe you wouldn't side with me and we're partners and you need to just have my back. And instead I'm like, I respect this man. He's so smart and logical. He's my best friend. And
he loved me enough to say it.
He loved me enough to say that. And I know that if I said, I appreciate your advice, I just disagree and I'm going to do it this way, that we can laugh and watch a movie that night and whatever.
God, that's brilliant.
So, and then it was funny. Like I had this situation recently where I had this giant splinter in my foot, like a few days ago. And I was really scared. Like, when you just have it was a giant, like not even a splinter, like a twig as long as your middle finger to the bottom of your palm.
Oh my God.
In the bottom of my foot.
Yes. They're wearing shoes.
Yeah.
It really works in the city.
I don't know. This was at a lake. But anyways, this was a funny example. We always like assess it after, where I was like I was a little scared. I'm like, we're either yanking it out and that's going to hurt or we're cutting the skin. Like I was just nervous. And Max was very much like, he was very assertive with me. He was like, I decided I'm not yanking it because I just think that's going to cause a ton of pain. It's kind of like the callus. Sorry, this is like gross. Kind of like the callus skin. So I can cut through it. It's not going to hurt that bad. So I decide I'm going to cut it and I start to cut and I'm like, kind of like chickening out. He's like, babe, you need to cut and you need to stop hesitating, cut. Like,
I love it. He switches modes because that's what's needed.
Literally. And it was he was pushing me. Like he wasn't babying me like a little bit so that I was a little annoyed. Like that he's like, you just got to cut it. And he's being aggressive and like, we got to solve this. Anyways, that's what I needed. I did it and the splinter came out. But happy wife, happy lifers would be afraid to tell their wife, you got to do this. They'd be like, stop yelling at me. I'm in pain. And you're just causing stress. Get him out of the room. Like
you are so good.
They would be scared. Textbook. They would be scared to encourage their partner to just keep going.
Be what to do.
Like, and I think, so we just, that's been a huge thing for us. Like even yesterday, and I'll say to him, like, I think you're off on this, or I think you're wrong, or like, I feel like everyone's coming down on me and now you are too. And whatever. And we'll talk through it. And then I will also say, like, I never want you to not be able to say things to me, like to be afraid that like of my emotions about something, like, or my anxiety. I think a lot of other partners' anxiety can cause another partner to just do things to not trigger it. But it's like, that's not your responsibility. They're responsible for their own emotions.
Yes.
I'm like the thing about the Candy Crush. We are responsible to self-soothe, to entertain ourselves, to be happy. I used to have this thing where Max he is really a positive person, but I eventually realized I can't put this invisible burden on him to dictate my mood.
Right.
And if he doesn't come home happy, I'm now not happy because you're my happy clown.
Or you're too happy and that makes me feel bad about myself.
Right. Like he needs to have space to have bad days and be anxious and be negative. Yeah. Like literally I expect him to come in and like literally like make me happy.
Start.
He doesn't
dance monkey.
Start. Like he doesn't get to feel, and that's not realistic. And I think also, if we're talking heteronormatively, like women do expect men to be stoic.
Right.
And when they come in and they cry or they have their tough moments, it's like the woman's dysregulated because that's my strength. Yeah. That's my anger and my consistent, like, no, that's a human and he's going to have emotions like you do.
Yeah.
So I've also had to learn how I can self-soothe when Max is not the giver of my happiness on that day.
I love it. That is so beautiful. I mean, really, if you're starting that way, like, hello, but this is the magic, right?
Yeah.
I even love the way you said you're wrong. Because when you first said it, I even thought like, ooh, that's like pretty direct. But you know what? That speaks volumes for you guys because most people, it would end right there because don't say that to me. Yeah. Like, how can you just say I'm wrong, right? Like, what if maybe there's a 50-50 in there? But like, you guys are able to just flat out say you're wrong. Yeah. And it's okay to say that. And then you're willing to listen. Like you said, he'll also accept if you decide I'm still doing it.
Yeah. It's I think you're wrong. Right.
Right. This is my take on this.
And going back to people just have different opinions. And like, what's something, even today, like I was asking him to, hi buddy. I was asking him to call I wanted him to get a second opinion on something.
Right.
And he did not, he was adamant he did not need a second opinion. He knows how the cards are going to shake out. And I said, well, I just need you to get it for me. Like, I'm going to pull that card right now. Like,
Right.
I understand where you're coming from. And I just need you to get the second opinion for me.
And that's mutual respect
and I'm just
too.
going to play my wife card there of like, for me, I need you to do that. And then that was when he said, okay, I'll get
And how
the
to turn
opinion.
out of that.
Oh, I haven't. It's happening right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
I got to find out about the opinion.
Because that's cool too. But you know what's beautiful about that is who doesn't want to honor that when you always let each other be who you are. So, right? And that's, I think, the magic of a relationship too, right? If everything is for me, do it for me, then it's no longer,
Yeah.
But when all of a sudden, this thing, please do this for me, then it has value, it has weight.
Right. And it's a tough line because there will be some people who take advantage of that and they're like, well, I need you to not play Candy Crush at night because it hurts my feelings. Like, there's times you need to know like when it's okay and when it's not. Like, I think there are needs and there are unrealistic expectations.
Yep, well said.
You need to be respected.
There are needs and there are unrealistic expectations. That's really well said.
Thank you. You need to be respected and you need to be loved. It is unrealistic to get flowers every single day.
Right.
Like that, that's really important for people. But I was going to also add another example was, like we were just saying the second opinion.
Oh, give the second opinion for me. And I said, but you have the weight of exactly to do that because you don't ask for it on everything.
Yeah. There was something that Max told me and I did not think it was that big of a secret. And I told my mom.
Oh,
and so when my mom brought it up, Max was upset that I had told my mom. And I at first was like, wait, why are you upset? Like, it's not even.
Tell my mom everything for starters.
Yeah. But I didn't even think it was that big of a secret. There are certain things people tell you and you can tell, like, don't share this.
Yeah.
So in that moment, instead of me belittling him and trying to change his opinion of, you're just being sensitive, it's not that big of a deal, I was like, sorry, like, I didn't know. I genuinely would never try to hurt you. I didn't know it was that big of a deal. And I think I will need next time you to look me in the eye and specify this as a secret because now it's clear that we view things with different levels of severity.
Right.
And he's like, okay. And like, it's a loss in this situation because the secret has been told. All we can do is like make sure we are A1 on how we will attack this game plan the next time.
And see, I love that again. It's like, that's the thing. It's not about like even Nadia and I remember the first 3 or 4 years, it was so silly. I look back like we wouldn't speak for 3 days. We'd fight over something dumb.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I can't remember the last time we had an argument. I can't even remember it because we have learned to just let things go. And then when there's something you don't want to let go, you realize this must be important.
Yeah.
Because, she's not letting it go or whatever. And that's valuable too. And tell me what you think of this. I also think that we all have to understand that nobody gets 100% of what they want. So is the 20 you're not getting a reasonable 20 or whatever the number is, right? Because I think anybody who expects everything, like everything in life, is not going to get anywhere, right? So it's like, or I even think a lot of people get divorced or separate or whatever, break up and all they do is swap the 20 for a different 20.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And I would say with why Max and I are such a good fit, we are very similar. And if we were not together, the way that we approach our careers, the way that we approach our relationships, the way that we prioritize our people, the way that we just everything, it's very similar. So to come together, I think when you're marrying someone, you are joining your lives as one. If you want to go live in a shack and be on the beach and not ever have a computer or a corporate job, like, great. But I don't think you could marry someone who wants to live in a high top in the city and like crunch numbers every day. Like, that literally, like, you're going to be giving more than 20. So I do think like
well said.
Max and I, we're very similar people and, and they will say opposites attract. And I feel like my parents are opposites, but they've been together for 30 years.
Right.
But they had similar core values of like relationships, family, jobs, lifestyle. Like, you have to come together on those. And actually for anyone listening who's, in a relationship or a couple, there's this book called 8 Dates by these 2 psychologists who work with couples who are married. And I love it. And Max and I did it. And it has chapters on family, finance, future.
I love that.
Intimacy, like, and trust. And it's nice because, especially before you get married.
8 Dates?
It's called 8 Dates because you go on 8 dates of these topics.
Love that.
And it's nice because if I bring up like, hey, how many vacations do you see us taking a year when we're in our 30s? Like, sometimes it can be awkward or uncomfortable. But when
Right.
you say, we're going to do this book together, and then the book prompts you, and it
That's
says,
what I'm dreaming of.
that
That's
while
my
you
book.
think about
There
it-
is a book.
Yeah. So anyways, so we did that book, and it was great.
Well, I think your Mama George probably had to adapt a lot more, because some amazing woman said this one time, some psychologist, or whatever, you have two choices. You either get married 3 times or you adapt 3 times. Because the party partner in college, you guys were both athletes, top of your game, are not necessarily the people that are going to be the ideal parent, and not necessarily the ideal sail off in the sunset person.
Yeah.
So either you adapt and work with each other, or you're going to end up.
Yeah. And Max could have, when his labrum got torn and his whole career ended and he had no resume, that could change someone's life. That could send them into just bad coping habits. That could make someone forever change. Like, we have had big moments where we have been grateful that we've handled it in good ways. You know, there are big moments that will come up in life that are not the fun big moments. They're the very sad big moments in life. And we will have to handle those together. And like, who knows? But like you said, I love that. Like, you do have to adapt. You know, Max loves football, and his new job means for 14 weekends every year until, you know, if things keep going well, he will not be home Thursday through Sunday. I will not see him during the months of September, October, November.
That's love and sacrifice for what you know is his soul.
Exactly. And like, would I want him to be a coach? No.
Right.
That's where it's like, no, you're not going to be a coach in college or the NFL, because I don't want to move. I don't want to,
Yeah.
you know. But if you're a broadcaster and it's these months and it's so important to you, and like, I can cope, it's fine. And like, I love my career and I love my friends, and I'm seeing the opportunity of how I can help my best friend plan her wedding, and I can, you know, nurture my friendships.
I
And like,
love that you say that.
and we talked about, I said, can we every Tuesday end work at 4? We're not going to have weekends. We're not going to have lots of alone time. But if I know every Tuesday at 4 we finish work, that will just mean so much to me to get through this time of like, we will have from the hours of 4 till 11 that night to get dinner, to watch a movie, to be together. So that's his compromises. I can end work at 4 every Tuesday in the fall.
And see, I love that you're proactively solving that. But this is really, I love the way these emerge. I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
We got to wrap it up.
I could same.
But what I love is that's the perfect example of bridging, because in the 8 dates, you know, you may never get together, right? And you say, would you be okay if you're never going to have me Thursday through Sunday?
Yeah.
The answer probably would have been a hard no if it was when you were dating, right?
Right.
But because you love each other, because you're willing to adapt, you've learned to make a 9th date out of it, or whatever you want to call it. You know, so it's very cool.
And I think like something that I think halts a lot of us is the prediction of how we would feel.
Right.
It's just a prediction. Like,
you changed the story, the way you're looking at it.
I probably would have been like, oh my God, I'm going to marry someone and their job will mean they're going to be away. Like, I'm not going to be able to handle that. And like I'm forecast rainy weather. But now that I've been in the situation and I've seen how hard he's grinded, and I believe that he is so good at what he does, like, I am so happy for him. And now I'm a fierce defender of his schedule.
But see, that's true love.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. So 2 things real quick. So we got to wrap it up. I want to respect your schedule, but 2 things. One, I think a lot of people would view you as like the triple black belt of emotional, you know, stability and learning and evolving. So it's like, oh, I can never be like her. So if there's some challenge you want to share, that's like, okay, this is the one I'm not nailing it yet, but I'm working on it. And then I just want you to plug quickly the Hidden Opponent, because I know how much that means to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, people should know about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'll start there. So the Hidden Opponent is my nonprofit where we advocate for student athlete mental health issues. There's a huge mental health crisis in the world. But as a former student athlete, zooming in on this community is really important to me, because that's the one I was a part of. So we provide free resources, education. We just signed our global partnership with Adidas. I don't know when this is going to come out, but keep your eyes peeled for some cool news. Cool. So we're just so stoked at the opportunity we have now to impact more athletes, to reach more people, save more lives.
Everything you would have loved to have had. You're good.
I know. Yeah. And it's really special, like talking to the current generation of student athletes who it's really important we give them a platform. So if you go to our Instagram, The Hidden Opponent, you can read their stories, you can see their videos, like
nice.
So that kind of like, it's like their TEDx talk opportunity. Like you can come here and share, and the community is willing. So super grateful for everyone who supports that, checks it out. It's called The Hidden Opponent. And then to your question on like, what would I leave people with? If I could list off a few of my favorite books, I'd say A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. If you're dealing with doubt, and maybe it feels like it's hard to start with this stuff. Mindset by Carol Dweck was a great one for me with performance anxiety and imposter syndrome.
Nice.
But if I had to give like a mini, like just challenge, I would say I challenge you to move through your life at a slower pace. And that's been big for me. When you're having conversations, take 10 seconds, a tough one, take 10 seconds before you respond. Like before your mind starts thinking about what you're going to say and do, like take a breath, look up from the screen, like go get a coffee. Like I've just been slowing down. I have a bracelet on that says pause.
I love that.
And it just helps so much. Like
It might be in my next tattoo.
you know,
Like that.
oh my God, tree matching pauses.
That's gold. Let's do it. That is gold. I really like that.
Thanks.
That's a
Everything's
great
so
nugget
fast.
to leave everyone on.
And you feel it in your shoulders and you're like, there's no rush. Like, especially if you are listening to this podcast, like chances are like you are having an opportunity where like you can be 5 minutes late. You can like give yourself 5 minutes of sleep. You can call them back in a day. And
It's like your last, I want you to watch one of the last posts I saw you do or the podcast with, respecting the people that don't return texts.
Yes.
I'm jealous of them.
Yeah, literally. So I just think slowing down, and I think making that also physical. It means taking a deep breath. It means dropping your shoulders, releasing the tension, and even talking slower. Like that's something I need to work on.
3, 4, 5, 10 seconds.
Before you respond.
That is a beautiful note to leave on, Vic. And I literally cannot wait to see what you've accomplished in the next 10 and 20
Oh
years.
my gosh.
It's going to be epic.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you,
too. Thank you for having me. I love talking to you. And I think this is such a special podcast and just so grateful.
It's the world. Thank you.
Yay.
Cheers.